Okay, in preparation today, I've come out to a coffee shop and I am reading Brave New Words, How AI Will Revolutionize Education and Why That's a Good Thing by Salman Khan. So Salman Khan is the CEO of Khan Academy. And if you've studied for the SAT, ACT, etc., AP exams, then you're probably familiar with Khan Academy. But essentially, I met up with my friend Shay last week, who you should definitely follow, especially over on Substack, and check out Analog Social. She posts a lot of content about education, critical thinking, and AI. And I met up with her last week, and she recommended that I dive into this in preparation for my debate, because I'm heading to the Oxford Union on Saturday. For the debate, this house believes that ChatGPT should replace your tutor, and I am on the opposition. So I'm basically trying to see what arguments are being made by those in support of AI tutors in AI education. So I'm starting here. I also have a couple of articles, and what I'm planning on doing is basically taking you through the entire journey of preparation for this debate, how I'm writing up my speech. It has to be about 10 to 12 minutes, and the sources that I'm actually using in preparation. So this is source number one. I'm going to have everything linked in a Substack article when I'm done that I'll post next week with this video. So it'll be linked in the description with all of the sources that I referred to and a bit more of the kind of behind the scenes. So this is day one. And basically what I'm going to do is just dive into this book, take some notes, and jot my thoughts down in a document and see where we get to. Good morning. It is Tuesday, and I'm heading over to Cambridge today, as I was planning to do yesterday. But I decided to leave out of Liverpool Street instead of King's Cross because one of my favorite coffee shops is over here. So I'm heading over to Nagare, which is like a Japanese coffee shop. They do really good matcha, hojicha, but they also do this espresso and jasmine tea latte, which is fantastic. So I got here a little bit early. It's about 8 o'clock. My train's not until 8:50. So we're gonna go grab a coffee, something to eat, and then head on over to Cambridge. And I'm hanging out with some of the accepted girls today and working on my speech for the debate. Didn't get very far last night. I got home and started feeling quite unwell. So not much was accomplished. I did more reading, but there's gonna have to be some hunkering down today to write that speech. So let's go ahead and get a coffee. I'm quite proud of myself for just filming. It's a very busy morning, but I have this very little inconspicuous camera now, which does help. However, it's very obvious that I'm talking to something because I've got a mic. Can I get the Pearl 40, please? Yeah. I managed to get on an earlier train, and this one's going to get in, about 30 minutes before the other train was going to get in. And it also has less stops. So I wanted to quickly touch on how it is that I got this particular speaking opportunity, because this was one that I did not do outreach for. It was one that I got contacted to do. So I got an email back, I think it was in June or July, asking if I wanted to be on the opposition to the subject, "This House believes that ChatGPT can replace your tutor." And they said specifically that it was my YouTube channel and my online presence, especially my Oxford content back when I was doing my master's. That was the reason they were reaching out. And also because I was a really strong advocate against the use of AI in education. And this is why I keep harping on why we need personal brands as public intellectuals, as academics, because it makes it so that way you get opportunities such as this that can go on your CV, can go into your speaking repertoire, and can make it so that way you have more opportunities in future. So anywho, that's just a little bit about how I got this particular speaking opportunity. I've also gotten free speaking opportunities for like the National Endowment for the Humanities, the Center for Humanities Communication in the States. And I've also spoken in a lot of different kind of student organizations in the past. So I just think it's super important to have a personal brand, and it doesn't matter necessarily which platform you're on, so long as it matches something that you actually enjoy creating. I love creating video content. If you are a writer, then I would say get on LinkedIn or Substack. If you are somebody that really likes photography, the challenge is that most of the platforms are not pushing photography anymore. So what I would encourage you to do is do a mix of photography as well as some video, and basically just figure out which platform makes the most sense for you. Begin generating a personal brand. And if you don't know how to necessarily do that, then go ahead and check out my personal branding workshop that we live streamed over on the Accepted Society YouTube channel. I'll go ahead and link the video down below. But basically I was covering how specifically academics can create a personal brand and begin making social media content. So you can check that out. It's free, it's available. And it is now time to head down to Cambridge, or up to Cambridge rather. Normally when I'm on the train, I will read a fiction novel, but today I just have so many things I need to get done. So I'm going to crack open my computer, or I'm going to continue reading that book that I showed you yesterday by Salman Khan, and just do a little bit of work on the hour-long journey up to Cambridge. So, all right, it's time to lock in. That did not quite go to plan. The train was meant to get in an hour ago, but there was some kind of disturbance on the line, and so it ended up getting delayed. Ended up sitting like just outside of Cambridge Station for an hour, and now I've unfortunately missed my chance to see my friend Doyle, who is a fellow here. He's an incredible scholar of the French slave trade. And I know him from Yale because he was a couple years ahead of me. And now I'm going to head into Central and meet up with Lanka over at Waterstones. The challenge that I have with Cambridge, and the only reason I don't come here more often, is because I can get a reader's card, but the university library is not nearly as nice as the libraries at Oxford. But it is convenient because there is the availability of certain coffee shops to actually work, and they have plugs and Wi-Fi and whatnot. I typically just come and work at the Waterstones. It's actually the Waterstones that I would come and hang out and work at when I was studying abroad here in 2018. And I love that you can still go and work and hang out there. I just realized that my mic wasn't on that entire time, but hopefully the camera picked up the audio. I'm going to head over to one of my favorite coffee shops, and for some reason my brain is just like short-circuiting today, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's quite close to the Fitzwilliam. So I'm gonna go ahead and meet up with some of the Accepted gals work on my speech. And then I'm meeting up with my friend Eve, who's a fellow at John's. I'm meeting up with her this late afternoon. So anywho, let's go get something to eat, then head over to Waterstones, and I'll share with you what I'm focused on today in preparation for the debate. We've taken a little lunch break, and Lenka is currently going and looking at some history books at Waterstones, and I am still working on my preparation for the debate. What I'm looking at are books and articles in support of the use of AI tutors. So one example is from Harvard Business School, where they had first-year students in their accounting class use AI in order to help them learn terms and prepare for exams. Now, one thing that I'm seeing as I'm developing my argument is that there are certain places where AI can be supportive in helping, for example, generate questions and quizzing students, whereas there are certain applications where I don't think it's as useful or applicable. And the challenge is that currently this is looking at a group of students who have grown up without the use of AI and are currently in graduate school. So these are people that are in their late 20s, 30s, etc., who have developed the critical thinking skills and have actually had real world application in their use of their own intellect and the training that they've had at lower levels of their education. And so what I also need to do with my argument is differentiate between the application of AI tutors and ChatGPT in grade school populations, higher education, and then like postgraduate study, which includes things like MBAs or PhDs. So what I'm doing is basically looking at what I think the proposition is going to make as their argument, looking at the sources that they're likely going to pull, and trying to find where there are holes in that argument. At the moment, the problem that I have is that so much of the articles around AI tutors are led by like leading professionals in tech. And one of the arguments that I have is essentially that while AI tutors are being used as a means of democratizing education for certain types of students, these CEOs and these executives, even at universities like Harvard Business School, are still having their children being tutored by people. One example is Mark Zuckerberg, who started a kind of unlicensed school for about 14 kids during COVID and had 3 private tutors on hand. And having grown up in the Silicon Valley, I can attest to you that a lot of the kind of tech families will actually bring in tutors for their students. Anywho, basically today is spent looking at what I think the proposition to the debate is going to say. So that way tomorrow I can really focus on what my opposing argument is going to be. And that's where we're at for today. So I'm just going to keep digging in. And like I said, all of the sources that I use and cite are going to be available in a Substack article the day that this video goes live. So all of that will be linked down below. But it is proving helpful. I'm back in London. I've written half of the speech, and I hate it. Like everything about it, I just think it sounds so stupid. And yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm gonna have to basically rewrite the whole thing. And the thing that's bothering me is that I feel like the best place for me to start is with an anecdote and like an emotional appeal. But I feel like they're gonna expect me to do that. And so I don't know. I don't know, guys. But I'm back in London. I'm back on the tube. I'm heading to book club, which is over in Bloomsbury. I am putting the speech down for the night. I'm going to think on it and decide what to do tomorrow because I only have one more day to write it, to practice it, and then to have to present it on Saturday. This kind of reminds me of like going to a conference, except at least if I were going to a conference, I'd be talking about my research. And I said to Katerina while we were in the library today, there's never been a time where I've wanted to work on my dissertation more than when I'm having to do research and sound like I actually know what I'm doing in the context of something else. Everyone sat in this room today is here because we were guided and supported by someone or a group of someones who witnessed our potential and pushed us to be stronger thinkers. And so I begin by asking, what is the purpose of education? Everyone sat in this room today is here because we were guided and supported by someone or a group of someones who witnessed our potential and pushed us to be stronger thinkers. It is human connection which drives our strongest memories, our creativity, and our individuality. Whether it be in the workplace, our homes, or our schools, I am here before you to argue that human connection cannot be bested by a large language model. What these studies have yet to prove, however, is the long-term impact of consistent AI usage. And so I begin by asking, what is the purpose of education? They are now dictating the outcomes of education by claiming to improve access while simultaneously eroding focus, human connection, and individual expression and creativity. We need only look at how leaders of the so-called technological innovation choose to educate their own children. It's not using AI, who have been taught to rely on technology which tests for and invents a learner who is compliant rather than one that prioritizes connection, humanity, and intellectual ingenuity. And I don't know about you, but that's not the world I wish to build. I've gone ahead, I practiced my speech a bunch of times, I made some edits. I am the queen of a typo, let me tell you. I have edited this thing so many times and there's still typos in it, but I've practiced it. I am absolutely exhausted. I have not been sleeping well this week, and so I'm going to take a bit of a nap and then get up and begin preparing for heading to Oxford and also repeating the speech a million times. So we're getting there. We'll see how it goes. Got a cute little Lucky Charm brooch. Don't worry, you won't be in it.
No, thank you. Oh, camera shot. I gotta grab something. Forgot it.
Hello friends, this is now a month after the debate and I was hoping that the Oxford Union would actually post the video for the debate, but I have not seen it go up and I have not gotten any messages back from their team. However, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the experience and then some of my arguments about the use of AI in education. When I arrived, they took the speakers into a specific chamber of the Oxford Union. It's like this library where we could have drinks and have a chat. It actually turns out that my team was myself and two professors. There's one who is a lecturer at Oxford in politics, but is also the accessibility officer for Jesus College. And the other is a robotics scholar from Berkeley. And on the proposition side were three freshers. So these were three students that are new to Oxford. I felt like it was slightly unfair to put three freshers on one team and then three, further along academics on the other side. but overall, I was quite interested to see that almost everybody made an emotional appeal, talking about the value of education through the relationship with educators. And then most of the arguments on the proposition were really focused on things relating to access to professors and AI as a tool. Now, I went about it in a very different way. I looked at all of the studies that I've seen on AI usage as AI tutors. I looked at the Harvard Business School's study on using AI tutors for their students. I've also looked at the cognitive studies, and I felt like I had a pretty decent grasp on what the research is saying about the use of AI, in which case basically the consensus is, one, we need more data. There's just simply not enough information at this point, but that there are limited use cases in which AI is helpful. But the question that I essentially pose, and you can hear it in some of my practice runs, is what is the actual value of education? How are we defining education? And up until this point, especially in the early 2000s, we've really focused on education being determined by certain metrics, markers, test results, grades, etc. And I think that's actually part of the problem, is that we haven't really emphasized learning and critical thought and ingenuity. Instead, we've focused more so on a student's ability to perform in a specific format. Now, I think this is why I personally really struggled and really was quite a terrible student up until community college, because I am terrible with exams. I am really bad at regurgitating information in a short period of time. I think in a more kind of complex way, I suppose, that is better suited to the humanities or the social sciences. And that's where I think there's a bit of this divide in the way that we need to talk about the future of education. Are we focusing on students being able to hit certain markers? In which case, yes, AI tutors are helpful because of the ability to, in real time, always give a student an outlet in which they can be questioned and where they can get to the point where they reach an answer. However, the challenge is that kind of sycophantic issue with AI where it always wants to please you. It always wants you to get to the right answer. And it does give you some context as to why you got the answer wrong, but in terms of long-term reasoning and the ability for a student to actually discuss that information, discuss the argument that they've made in the long term, that has yet to be tested. In applications where AI is used for writing and for other kind of critical processing tasks, that's where it falls short, and where things like cognitive studies and cognitive activity is reduced. And so I really focused on that kind of dichotomy between the way that education has performed thus far, which is really focusing on results, versus thinking about critical thought, reading skills, writing skills, the ability to listen, etc. After the event, I wish I had made more of an emotional argument, because I really focused on the data. I also looked at where tech founders, especially those in the top 6, are sending their children, and they are working with human tutors. They are ensuring that their students are being taught philosophy, politics, history, whereas the general population, we are seeking to ensure that they are trained in a technical level, which AI is going to be able to replace. I also pointed out the work of my friend Shay. I talked about her earlier in the video, but I've had so many conversations with her about AI, about critical thinking, about developing kind of an analog practice and human connection. How do we really focus on ensuring our humanity, ensuring our connection to others in the age in which we do need to understand how to use AI tools. And so I won't go into it in this video, but I actually have several articles that I've written so far on Substack about the debate and the argument that I kind of wish I had made, as well as how I see my relationship with and use of AI in my work as a historian, as a creator, as a business owner, and I would love to make more content on this in the future. I think that there is a much more complex conversation that needs to be happening, because all I'm seeing online is this very polarized idea of either AI is going to help us develop an economic utopia whereby nobody has to work, or it's the doom and gloom of this is destroying our planet and also our cognitive ability being impacted. The challenge is, as somebody who's kind of straddling the line between academia and the creator economy, tech, etc., there is an acknowledgement that on this side, we do need to understand how AI tools work. We do need to engage in this conversation, and we do need to ethically identify like which tools we want to work with and which ones we don't, and in what applications it is the most useful versus using it for everything, and certainly not using it for things like having it as your therapist. I think going to a human being is what you should be doing. On the other hand, there is a push, especially amongst academics that I'm around, that are completely rejecting the use of AI. And I think what was helpful about preparing for this debate is that I had basically stepped away from using any AI tools and really doing any educational learning about AI until I was preparing for this debate. And it just made me aware of the kind of discrepancies in the arguments that are being made, and how one side just doesn't want to see the positives of the other. And so I just think that there needs to be a more nuanced take, and I think that my friend Shay is probably the best resource for this, but I would love to make more videos in the future on AI, about AI in the future of the humanities, future of higher education, etc. So if there's more information that you would like, then I'd be happy to share it. Just leave it in a comment down below. I'm sorry that I don't have the actual recording from this debate itself. I really wish that I did, but I wanted to get this video out to you. I want to continue the conversation about the ethics of AI in education, as well as its other applications, and yeah, just have kind of an open dialogue. I am on the side that, especially in higher education, we should be teaching critical thought. We should be teaching our students to prioritize human connection, to prioritize listening, reading, writing. And I do not agree that AI should be replacing human educators. So that is my stance. That was the stance that I argued, and I just want to make it very clear. We ended up winning the debate, which was very exciting. I wasn't expecting a group of Oxford students to go against their tutors in saying that AI was better than them, but it was nice to confirm that. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye, friends.